first time in 2 months, WrestleRant is back with an issue number 112 here tonight to review WWE Monday Night Raw from June 17th, 2013. Usually, I do not like doing reviews here on WrestleRant, just giving my thoughts on various topics and whatnot. Haven't done a review of Raw since late 2012. However, with this past week's edition being so great and being in what I believe the best of the year thus far, I thought it'd only be appropriate to break down each segment and give my thoughts on each part of the show. So kicking off the show, we had the returning CM Punk making his first appearance on Raw since I believe April 15th, 2013, so a little over 2 months, confronting the new World Heavyweight Champion Alberto Del Rio. Now, let me address Payback real quick from this past Sunday night and what I thought was the best pay-per-view of 2013 thus far. Very hot Chicago crowd, loved the results, all logical outcomes, all awesome action as well. Really enjoyed the event as a whole, looking forward to where they go from there. So after the awesome pay-per-view that we got on Sunday, I was really looking forward to what we were going to get on Monday Night's Raw from last night. Kicking off the show, we had Punk and Del Rio. Very good promo between these two. If you can recall, they had a promo, or they had numerous promos over the course of 2011 during their feud over the WWE Championship in the latter half of the year. Pretty good feud between those two, but I thought this promo was much better than anything these two have ever produced together in late 2011. And Punk even brought up their past history together too, which I also thought was pretty cool. So with that being said, they got that match set up for later in the night between Punk and Del Rio after made official by Vicky Guerrero. So that was a good promo to kick off the show between those two guys. Punk is apparently face now after Payback. No complaints from me. I've always loved Punk as a face. I was not one of the complainers from last year that disliked his face turn, so I'm completely fine with it. As for Del Rio, he explained his actions nicely from Payback, addressed his heel turn and why the fans turned against him and why they should cheer Ziggler, all that kind of stuff. So that was nicely done. Probably one of the better Del Rio promos I've heard in quite some time, if ever. Then up next, we had the return of Christian for the first time since August. And anyone that knows me knows I was marking the hell out while watching this. Christian, the surprise return, as made official by Vicky Guerrero and Brad Maddox, facing Wade Barrett in one-on-one action. Pretty good matchup between these two. Could have gone a bit longer, but nonetheless, I'm very, very ecstatic that Christian has returned to the WWE for the first time in nearly 10 months. What his role will be going forward, I have no idea. He did mention on the WWE app shortly thereafterwards that he still deserves that one more match, obviously referring to the World Heavyweight Championship. So, is Del Rio versus Christian Part 2 in our future? It depends. I'm looking forward to it if it is. We saw that same feud 2 years ago, but whatever it takes to get Christian back in the world title picture, I'm content. So up next, we had the Road Scholars taking on Sheamus in handicap action, 2-on-1 action here. It was a decent match. Really nothing to write home about, aside from the fact that Sandow pinned Sheamus clean to win the bout. Sheamus, it was a 2-on-1 advantage against Sheamus, so it makes sense that he lost here. Very glad that Sandow picked up the clean victory in this matchup. He needed momentum. He had a lot of momentum going into his feud with Sheamus going to Payback last Sunday night, where he ultimately lost. And I was fine with that. It only made sense, but I'm glad they're continuing the feud. Sandow got the win here, so good match from those two. Looking forward to their inevitable rematch going forward. Up next, we have a no disqualification match between Daniel Bryan and Randy Orton. Now, these two have had a lot of great matches over the last year. The first time that we've seen this match since, I believe, maybe early 2012. And I'm looking forward to their eventual rivalry and whatnot. And I'm hoping that Randy Orton is the one to turn heel, not Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan is crazy over right now. I went to a Monday Night Raw a few weeks ago, and he was crazy over in Hartford when I went to that show. So that's only a prime example of why they should not turn this guy heel. Randy Orton, on the other hand, has expressed numerous times in recent years that he really wants to go heel. He performs better as a heel, so we'll have to wait and see regarding that. But even still, very good match from these two, ends in a no contest. I was initially upset with the non-finish between these two, with Daniel Bryan getting injured, which I don't think is legitimate. But I am fine with it because it protects both guys. Save the finish for later on, a match later on between the two if it happens at Money in the Bank or SummerSlam, what have you. But even still, I was very surprised they gave away the no DQ stipulation on Raw before this feud even started between the two. But nonetheless, enjoyable action that I'm looking forward to an eventual rematch on pay-per-view down the line with Orton hopefully being the heel. Up next, we had Stephanie McMahon confront the new Divas champion, AJ Lee, only to have Caitlyn come out afterwards and attack AJ. By far the best Divas segment that we've had on Raw in a long, long, long time. The segment that we had last week, the Secret Admirer thing, also pretty good, but ultimately, in the end of things, I am very, very glad that we're finally getting a story in the Divas division. We've had a few stories in the Divas division in the last few years, none all that intriguing. This is the first one that has history. It has the in-ring work. Kayla and AJ produced the Divas match of the year at Payback. Can't really exclude Taryn Terrell versus Gail Kim from Slammiversary, but that's TNA, so I won't say it's a women's wrestling match of the year, but in WWE, the Divas, as far as they go, Caitlyn and AJ produced the Divas match of the year thus far at Payback. So they had a very good promo on Monday night, Stephanie McMahon and AJ. Their verbal exchange wasn't all that logical. There were some parts that I was left confused at. But even still, AJ, I know, has expressed numerous times in various interviews that Stephanie McMahon has always been an idol of hers. So it's good to see them finally get some on-air screen time, get a promo between those two gals. But even still, I'm looking forward to AJ's reign as Divas champion. Hopefully her importance, how, expressing how important the title is to her becomes a common thing going forward. The matches between Caitlyn and AJ continue going to Money in the Bank and SummerSlam respectively. And hopefully they have an end game for this involvement of Stephanie McMahon, because if it doesn't, then this kind of felt a little random, but even still, I enjoyed the segment. Up next, we had a U.S. Championship match between Kane and Dean Ambrose that lasted a mere minute. Not liking the matches between Dean Ambrose and Kane as of late. We've had, I think, 3 of them in the last week, not including the one they've had on SmackDown in late April, which I thought was pretty good. However, the matches they've had on Raw last week, Payback from Sunday, and Raw last night were not all that great. They weren't terrible, but they were not all that great that I would want to see a rematch. Kane shouldn't be in the mid-card title feuds anyway, so I don't really know why he's feuding with Dean Ambrose. But I assume it's only to set up Kane versus The Shield with The Undertaker at SummerSlam, Brothers of Destruction versus The Shield for the tag team titles, which I think would be an amazing matchup. So I think that's why they're continuing to target Kane. So that makes sense. But even still, they should keep Dean Ambrose and Kane away from each other in singles action. Don't really want to see that match go on anymore. Hopefully we don't see a rematch at Money in the Bank. Just really want to see the Brothers of Destruction reunite. It's too soon for that. It's only late June. And if they're going to have that match at SummerSlam, that's 2 months away. So they should probably wait until after Money in the Bank. But even still, if that's the plan, if that's the end game for this involvement with Kane and the Shield, then I'm content with it. Up next, we had Antonio Cesaro announce his alliance with Zeb Coulter. Now, some people, I understand, did not like this pairing because it doesn't make all that sense, because Zeb Coulter aligns himself with Americans like Jack Swagger, and Cesaro is Swiss. So I can see why some people may have a problem with this, but the fact is, Cesaro hasn't been used right since he lost the U.S. title. Even when he was U.S. champion, he wasn't used right. I expressed this in a previous video, but since the start of 2013, this guy's been losing constant matches for no reason. So I'm glad he's finally had some direction on Raw with Coulter as his manager. He can finally get some heat. His reaction with Regal, the reaction that he got in the match with Regal wasn't all that great. So hopefully that builds in due time. Maybe this builds to a Money in the Bank victory next month. I'd like to believe. I mean, it's not all that possible. It's not all that likely, but you never know. Anything's possible in the WWE. But even still, being a huge Regal mark that I am, I was very glad to see Regal appear on Raw against Cesaro. Nice match between those two while it lasted. Up next, the excellent, I cannot stress this enough, the fantastic segment involving Mark Henry and John Cena. Now, going into this week's episode of Monday Night Raw, Mark Henry was teasing on Twitter that he was retiring from in-ring competition. Now, I found it a bit strange because last week on Monday Night Raw, or during Raw, I should say, he was tweeting that he wasn't retiring, people should stop speculating it, and then days later he says he's going to be retiring. So I thought that was a bit strange, so that's why I thought it was a work going into the show. But after witnessing Henry's promo and saying that he was going to go back home with his kids and even shedding a few tears, then I was kind of led in to believe that, oh my god, this actually is legitimate. Because I thought Edge's injury announcement, his retirement from a number of months ago, or from April 2011, was a work. And in the end game, it wasn't. So I thought Henry was going to be the same thing, like, holy shit, this guy actually is retiring. And he didn't. He World Strongest Slam John Cena, going to be contending for the WWE Championship next month against Cena at the Money in the Bank pay-per-view. So great acting from Henry, probably the best promo he's produced of his career up to this point. And Cena's promo was solid too. So I'm looking forward to this feud going forward. Much more excited than I was for the Ryback-Cena feud. And speaking of Ryback, he wasn't even on this show. Apparently he wasn't medically cleared by the WWE officials, so I'm not sure what he's going to be doing going forward. But even still, Henry versus Cena, a match that I'm very looking forward to come Money in the Bank next month. And up next, we had Jericho versus Heath Slater, kind of a throwaway matchup. Nothing all that bad, didn't last all that long. Just kind of brought back memories of Jericho versus Slater from NXT a few years ago, where Slater picked up the upset victory. Not the case on Monday night. Jericho beats Slater, attacks 3MB afterwards. Nothing much more than that. I was happy that Jericho got on the show. He's still face. I love him as a face. I love him as a heel too. But they don't need him as a heel at this point in time after only turning a mere year ago. So they should keep Jericho as a face for the time being. I thought the Wyatt family would debut at this point, having the Wyatt family come out and attack Jericho. That wasn't the case, but maybe we see that in coming weeks. But even still, nice matchup between those two. Same can be said from the subsequent matchup between Curtis Axel and Sin Cara. Axel goes over Sin Cara for the third time in the last month. So kind of a tiresome matchup for those that watch SmackDown, but even still, it was fine for what it was. It furthers Axel's momentum and teases an eventual title feud between Miz and Axel. Miz was on commentary for this matchup. And then the main event matchup, CM Punk versus World Champion Del Rio. As I said before, we haven't seen this feud since late 2011. Haven't seen a match between these two since that point in time. So this felt fresh. It was exciting. It was enjoyable. It wasn't all that great, but it was an entertaining matchup to say the least. Ends on a countout with CM Punk going over via countout. Del Rio walks away. Dolph Ziggler jumps from off the stage and attacks Del Rio, which I thought was awesome. Gets a nice babyface reaction from the crowd. So when Ziggler eventually does cut a promo, I'm intrigued to see how it will go down, if he's going to be a babyface from this point forward. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to that feud too. The most interesting and the most intrigue I've ever had for a World Championship feud in quite some time. But anyways, after CM Punk celebrating his victory, almost immediately Lesnar's music goes off, comes down to the ring, delivers an F5 to CM Punk before even cutting a promo in pipe bomb symbolic fashion. I thought that was great. We've been hoping for this matchup between Lesnar and Punk. I've been hoping for it personally since Lesnar debuted the night after WrestleMania last year. So I'm very, very glad we're finally getting that matchup. Hopefully at SummerSlam. I don't want to see it rushed going to Money in the Bank. So if we can see that matchup at SummerSlam, I'm going to be a happy camper. It could be a dream feud right there, especially with Heyman's mic working for Lesnar. So even still, I'm extremely excited for that. It looks like it's going to be the summer story that we're getting this year. And if it is, I'm extremely content with it. And overall, this is a very strong edition of Monday Night Raw, probably the best that we've seen this year thus far up to this point. I mean, we could always have greater Raws. Time will tell. But the crowd was great, surprisingly enough. The RVD video packages were fun to watch. Very excited for his return next month on Money in the Bank. We have Christian back. We have CM Punk back. We have Mark Henry back. A lot to be excited about in WWE right now. And it couldn't have happened at a better time with the summer season starting up right now. So I'm looking forward to what they produce in coming weeks on both Raw and SmackDown, which has also been flourishing in recent weeks. And hell, even TNA has been doing great too. So the world of wrestling has been very entertaining as of late, and looking forward to what they all produce going forward in the summer season of 2013. Thanks for watching, guys. Make sure to leave your thoughts on the show in the comment section below. Drop a like. Make sure to subscribe as well. Really do appreciate it. Make sure to follow me on Twitter at @SAVE_US_GSM to continue the conversation. Thanks again for watching, guys, and I'll see you later. This is GSM signing out. Till next time, guys.